Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I am going to talk about a very important topic which is on the radar of every individual in our country and worldwide. The topic is the recession already in? So what I'll do is I'll first talk about what is the recession, what could be the major causes of recession, and then we'll look at different economies, major economies of the world, look at some of the data points like the GDP growth, inflation rate, etc. And based on that, we'll make some sort of observation, my view on whether it is in and what people are saying. And if it is coming, if it is likely to come, so as an investor, what we should be doing? Is it time to sell all the stocks in the market and come out? Or is it a time to invest more? We'll examine all these points. If at all we invest more, then what type of stocks we should concentrate on. So these are some of the topics for today. So friends, let's get tuned and let's get going. So as I mentioned, is the global recession coming? It's a very important question, and to answer this question, let us look at what the recession is. Normally, each economy has a cycle. It goes through the growth of GDP and then the time factor if you take, it goes up, then it comes down, it goes up again. So this cycle is sort of inevitable. This is called economic cycle. Different governments try to increase the duration of expansion or what we call is boom and reduce the duration of recession or what we call is bust. But the point is they just go one after another. It is something like in our daily life we have day and night. So although we all are very active during day, but night also has to come. Unfortunately, this cycle is controlled by God, so we can't reduce the duration of day or night, but it comes alternatively. Similarly, in any economic cycle, expansion and recession or boom and bust are two sides of the coin which keep on coming alternatively. In recent years, we have seen some recession and we also have seen a longer recession. I will talk about all of them. So the question comes, what is recession? So general definition of recession could be, normally we talk about GDP growth rate of different countries. It could be US, it could be Eurozone, it could be India, China, Japan or any economy. If the growth rate is positive, we call it expansion. This means if the growth rate is increasing or it is more, we say economy is expanding. When growth rate starts shrinking or growth rate becomes negative, we call recession. And the definition normally, which is generally accepted by some of the economists, and they are in consecutive 2 quarters. If the growth rate is negative in any economy, that economy has already come in recession. Now, that is a general definition. There is no hard and fast rule. Secondly, during recession, what you will see is not only GDP contracting, this gets into a vicious cycle. Unemployment starts increasing, spending becomes less, and people become very cautious in terms of spending. So they get into a vicious cycle, which in turn reduces GDP growth. Now, if that happens, then government taking some measures, some economic measures like pumping more cash in the economy, investing in certain sectors, they give us sort of boosting those to the economy and try recovering the cycle. So since we, like different governments, different political parties, because the mandate of political party is to make government in democracy. And for doing that, they have to have different measures. They have to give many social measures. They have to, have to really balance and ensure that they win the election. So they take many wrong decisions as well. During COVID, last 2 years, major economies of the world, they pumped in a lot of currencies in the economy, and which have led to increase in the money supply and therefore inflation. And the moment you have inflation, government starts taking measures, different central banks start taking action which controls inflation, and those actions in turn reduces the growth in economy and therefore recession. So that is a general cycle. So let's take it as a part of life. This keeps on happening regularly, alternatively. Now, the second question is the recession already in? For ensuring that, let us look at the GDP growth rate of different economies or major economies like America, Eurozone, India, China, etc. And that will give us some idea where we are leading to. So this data I have taken from a economic site which is very famous, and the site name is tradingeconomics.com. They quote different countries' economic data. As you can see in this one, the blue figures are positive growth rates and the yellowish figure is a negative growth rate. During 20, like at the time of COVID, American economy and most of the economy had consecutive 2 quarters negative growth rate because there was a lot of uncertainty, but very soon people came to understand the phenomena, the COVID vaccine came, and the third quarter, most of the economy saw positive growth rate. And since then, if you look at it in US economy, the growth rate has been moderating or reducing sometimes, and in last quarter, US saw shrinkage of their GDP growth by 1.5%. Similarly, in Eurozone also has a very similar thing. Euro has even worse figure than America, as you can see on the right hand side here. And what you could see here is like during first 2 quarters of COVID era, the economy contracted. Then there was a recovery. Obviously, like when market started opening up, then normal activity resumed and there was economic activity. So economy went up, and then again 2 quarters it was minus in Europe. And in recent quarters, they are dwindling very close to zero in terms of 0.2%, 0.6%. Now let's look at another large economy, China. Now China figure is also very similar. Like during COVID, 1 quarter it contracted, and then the recent days, they are, instead of having higher single digit economic growth or GDP growth, their numbers are dwindling in terms of 1%, 1.2%, 1.3%. And there is a lot of supply chain disruption which the whole world is facing today. So, and that is creating a lot of problem. Now let's look at India. Now India position is relatively better than US and Euro in terms of GDP growth, because we have a very large population and our economy today is more of a consumption oriented economy, and government is making its effort in terms of making this economy more powerful, investing in infrastructure with government spending and trying its level best to ensure that we don't get in negative. So, but one thing which is very important here, which is very obvious here, even India growth rate of GDP has been reducing from 8.4% to 5.4 to 4.1. So let us hope it doesn't get into negative zone. Now let's move forward. So looking at the GDP figure and going with the definition of recession, 2 consecutive quarters negative growth rate, what we can say here is during COVID there was a very short recession for 2 quarters, then it recovered, and now we are at the sort of struggling. We cannot say recession is coming, neither we can say it will not come, and therefore we are almost at the sort of like boundary line, or we are almost at the zone where it could go either way. Let's look at major inflation in some of the economies. Now here, same site, I have picked up some inflation figures. You would see that countries like Turkey, Argentina, and they have got huge inflation happening. So even coming back to some serious country like United Kingdom, which has got 9.1% inflation rate. Then we have got United States 8.6, Euro area 8.1, Germany 7.9, Canada 7.7, Mexico 7.65. Then look at India 7.04. And then you have got some country like Japan who has been moderating, and then China also the inflation is reasonably controlled. So now 2 symptoms clearly indicate that all are not well in economies, world economies. And one is GDP growth rate, other is inflation. So obviously all the central banks of the world have tightening the money flow. This means they have been increasing the interest rate, and there are going to be more increases in the interest rates. The moment interest rate goes up, the cascading effects start. People start taking lesser loan, lesser spending by the corporates. Therefore, what happens is the economic growth starts reducing, which impacts the GDP growth rate. So all are not well in the economy. That much certainly you can say at this point in time. And governments are trying their level best to ensure that we don't get into the negative zone. And therefore, one thing we can sort of like make some observation here, based on whatever numbers we can see around. India being what you call consumption-based economy, we are relatively in a better situation. But since in today's world, everybody depends on global commerce, global business, so much of dependence on each other, we cannot conclude that we will not get into recession. If other economies or larger economies are getting into recession, we are also likely to sort of see that situation. Some of the regions during COVID time, country like America and many European countries, they printed a lot of notes, because before 1930, the Great Recession, notes were backed up with gold standard. But after that, they just got rid of gold standard, and government took that control of the printing note, and therefore they keep on printing a lot of notes, and they pumped in lot of money in the economy, which helped in recovering quickly. Just after 2 quarters, economies started coming to normal, and we saw good growth rates. But at the same time, it has created a lot of abnormalities in the economy. Secondly, as we all know, the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine, which is having a lot of issues in terms of supply chain breakage, in terms of oil prices or crude prices, which is most dangerous for India. Because in our budget last year, we had assumed crude price to be around $70 per barrel, whereas today it is 110 or something. But good part of it is that India agreement with countries like Russia, and we are getting crude at about $90 from Russia, and other countries also we are negotiating and trying to make as low as possible. Also, there is a lot of initiative happening in India in terms of mixing ethanol in fuel like diesel as well as petrol, which is, and India had set up a target to make it 10% by 23, but already has achieved that, and they have set up a new target to mix up to 20%. There could be technical reasons, but good sign is a lot of efforts are being made in terms of ensuring that our budget, our expenses due to increasing crude prices are contained. So that's the ground reality, and I think a lot depends. India economy certainly will not get into recession if crude prices recovers, and the moment the Russia-Ukraine war comes to sort of like normal, or there is some agreement or the war stops, very shortly the crude price might fall from 110, which is the price now, to about 70, 75 type of situation, which will be very good for India. But let us hope that when that is going to happen. So therefore, friends, just answering the question, is inflation already arrived? Answer is no, it has not yet arrived. Likely to come, but it's almost coming very close to our door. That much is for sure. Secondly, let's look at some of the reports worldwide. Goldman Sachs has 30% probability for recession hitting in 2023, and Bank of America believes that it is 40% chance that recession will hit us in 2023. So these are big research institutions, have got keep their eyes open everywhere. They have a lot of data points, and based on that, they are predicting that chances are reasonably high that recession will hit us. So therefore, government mechanism, different central banks, different governments, they are trying their level best to avoid the situation. So at this stage, very hard to conclude that it cannot come. Very hard to say that it will come. So we are almost in a sort of like zone where both yes and no are possible. Now the next question happens, in that situation, what we should do as an investor or as any individual. Very interesting question. So if you have invested or should we sell out all our stocks and come out? That is one question to be answered. Lot of people, if you look at the stock market data, majority of people are traders in nature. I can tell you one thing, this is sideways market and very tough for traders. It's very hard to predict where market is going to go. So it's a tough time for traders, and many will get wiped out during this particular phase actually. But for investor, it may not be that bad time. I think personally, it could be a very good time for investor. Investor means long-term investor who is willing to take calculated risk. I think I am reminded of Darwin's principles. Darwin said, his principle has two parts actually. He says struggle for existence and survival of the fittest. So what happens is, when there is a recession coming and it's a tough time, during boom or during expansion, every company is doing good. You make a lot of money and therefore you invest anywhere. People put their money anywhere. The moment the cycle reverses, anywhere thing goes away, that you start losing money in bad companies. Efficiency comes into play. Inefficient one does not perform. That is what Darwin says. Struggle for existence and survival of the fittest. What it means for economy is that leaders who have proven over the time how to work in this situation, they will do much better. They will consolidate. There could be temporary halt, but once the economic cycle restarts, or expansion restarts, they will multiply many times. So going purely with Darwin principle, one of the lesson which we need to take is, we all should revisit our finances. We must ensure that we have enough funds in our back pocket, which can sustain us for maybe 2 years or so. And then if you have surplus fund, then what do you do with the surplus fund? The main goal is identify and stay with leaders. Leader means each sector, the companies who have been consolidating their market share. Like let's say if you take paint industries, Asian Paint, all through the cycle in last 20, 25, 30 years, they have been consolidating on their market share. Their market share has been increasing. So these companies are going to stay. And therefore, these companies, you must identify. You can find such companies in each sector. If you take banks, it could be HDFC Bank, Kotak Bank. If you take, let's say, commodity stock like steel, it could be Tata Steel, and that type of company. So I don't want to make any specific recommendations for a company, but one thing is for sure, that identify the leaders in different sectors and stay with the leaders. That is one thing we need to do. Second thing is, invest slowly and regularly. So SIP, systematic investment. Normally when you say SIP, people understand that SIP is primarily for mutual fund. So if you are not a regular player in stock, you can do that. But even you can do that in stocks. You can periodically a small amount of sum, you can keep on investing in blue chips at this point in time, and you have got a very good valuation which is available. It may so happen that market may further go down 5%, 10%. But since if you are planning for 2 years, 3 years time frame, there is absolutely no worry. In fact, this is the best time for investor and very bad time for trader. And that we need to understand. Relax and go on holiday. Since you are not being that active in the market, it's a time to relax. Take it lightly. Don't be tensed. Time is going to come back and we are going to have much better time. And therefore, friends, it's a time to relax. Invest slowly, and if you have money left in your pocket, it's a time to go and relax and enjoy the holidays. That is very, very important. And so friends, one very important thing I want to bring it to your notice here is it's a time to rethink, control, invest selectively. Don't go with the new channels like CNBC, TV18 or G Business where every day they recommend some stocks. They might be recommending hundreds of stock, and if you start following them, I can guarantee you will have very frustrating experience in this time. They may be okay when it's a booming market, but not today. So therefore, friends, it's a time to consolidate. I am reminded of saying from Bhagavad Gita where Lord says that I like those people very well who are balanced both during good time and bad time. So this is time to follow Gita. You have to be balanced to enjoy this time as a good time and bad time. There's nothing like good time and bad time. This is an opportunity for us, and we can really make lot of gain, or you can make lot of money if you act properly. So I like to end the video here. So if you like this video, please do subscribe to my channel if you are not subscribed. Do post this video on your social media like your Facebook or maybe a Twitter account or wherever you are. And I hope you enjoy this. Thank you so much for your time and stay connected.